My name is Michael. I used to be an engineer for the old Norfolk and Western Railway in 1963. Myself and my usual conductor, Doe, ran slow, mixed freight trains between Hinton, West Virginia and Clifton Forge, Virginia. It was a cold evening in Clifton Forge, about 6:30. Doe and I were ready to run a return train to Hinton. It was a manifest train, consisting of 48 cars. Our motive power that night had two GP9 engines, those being 774 and 903, SD7 238, and F7B5 66. Setting out, our route was very quiet. There were dense forests along most of the trackside, and a large lake was on the right side that was about a quarter of the way along. It wasn't uncommon to see wildlife running around the edge of the trees. It was about 10:20. The only light was 774's headlights. It was completely dark otherwise. We were making good time, and the gentle rumble of our engines kept us awake. Just after milepost 52.3, I had gone down into 774's high hood to use the restroom. We were coasting down a grade with our independent brakes barely on. Then, it all happened. I had just barely sat that down after grabbing a drink. Then suddenly, from the other side of the cab, I heard,
"Brake, there's a person on the line."
I instinctively grabbed the air brakes and slammed them into emergency. The hiss of air leaving the line shot through the air. I barely caught a glimpse of the person. They had turned to face us. They were a relatively thin white woman with a red trench coat and what looked like black jeans. They were about 50 feet away, and we were doing 25 miles an hour, but we still couldn't stop in time. The sound of the impact was subtle, relatively soft, but apparent nonetheless. It took us another couple dozen feet to stop. Afterwards, Doe and I were temporarily frozen. The shock of what happened was palpable. We were both thinking the same thing. Did that really just happen? Then, after what felt like an eternity of silence, Doe called the situation in. Meanwhile, I didn't know what to do. We were told by dispatch that police were on their way, although it'd be a little while. I started walking down with a flashlight to see if I could see anything. About 7 car lengths down from the head end, I saw a red scarf that had caught on a grab bar on the side of the car. It was a deep red color, with a small dab of a dark red substance. Blood. After another brief moment of shock, I called it in. It was another while later that the scene was secured and the train was able to continue. Since it was about the end of our shift, we were relieved there and dead-headed on a freight train going the way we had come from. We weren't told much, but the scarf was apparently the only trace of the woman that could be located. It didn't make sense. I'd assumed that there'd be more than just a scarf. But the unsettling part about it was that, when I saw her first up until impact, she didn't have the red scarf. So where did it come from? We stayed the rest of the night in the employee bunkhouse. Doe and I were then put on a slow local train of one engine and a small handful of cars. About 6, not including the caboose that we had on the end. It was noon. The usual stretch of line always looked so different during the day. I knew this would happen. It was a few days later. We were going down the same stretch of line, but a deep fog had rolled in. As we rounded a blind corner, I swear I saw a person ahead of us. Instinctively, I slammed on the emergency brakes. Just as we were about to hit them, they looked at me. It wasn't even a glance or anything. It was the deepest stare into my soul that a human can physically do. When the impact should have happened, I heard nothing. With the brakes screaming as we stopped, I jumped out to see. Nothing. There was nothing. No trace of a person. Not a single shred of evidence that a person was ever on the right of way.
"Where are they?"
Gone.
"What do you mean, gone?"
No one's here. There's nothing. We didn't know what to do. We both saw a person. We both heard a lack of an impact. Calling this incident in again, I made a decision. There was nothing there supporting that we had ever hit a person. Despite there being 2 witnesses, The evidence spoke for itself. I decided that being an engineer wasn't fit for me. Apart from Doe, no one else seemed to believe me. Combined with the still prominent guilt of hitting a person, my tenure with the railway had come to its end. Doe soldiered on for a few more weeks after my departure, but similar sentiments meant that, eventually, he would part ways with the railway too. Since then, I've taken up other jobs. It isn't much, but it's still giving me purpose. I never figured out what happened to Doe, but he's probably doing good. Well, as good as someone can be after hitting a person and thinking they hit another one. You know, it's an oddity. The first woman was white with a red trench coat and black jeans. This second person was completely different. It was hard to pinpoint then, but this one had a green sweater, gray sweatpants, and a navy blue hat. The most unnerving part, wrapped around their neck with the ends fluttering in the wind in front of them, was a scarf, deep red in color, and had a dark red substance on it, blood.